Shit, where were those links for?
Well, we're live, so
Oh.
it's the Redeye stream number 123. Roseanne gets canned. So I touched upon this a little bit last night, 40. You weren't around, but I did cover it, touch upon it a little bit. I think ABC kind of jumped the shark here, and I think they're going to end up screwing themselves over in the end. Roseanne was a big hit. A lot of people watched it. Whether they really liked her politics or not, they were still watching. Kind of like right now. If somebody hates us and is in the chat, well, we still get a view. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. So, I mean, really, ABC could have just stayed quiet about it, let her apologize and fix her own mess, and not fire the whole cast and the whole show over it. MC was pointing out, and he should join us shortly, that when somebody makes a political comments and stuff like that, when they're an entertainer, and they kind of bring their entertainment value down, do you believe that, or do they actually, there's no such thing as bad publicity, so to say?
As far as entertainment goes, I am starkly against people's personal political beliefs just being injected right into the entertainment. Because to be honest, that ruins it for me. It doesn't matter if I agree with him or not. It can be Tim Allen on Last Man Standing, I think was the name of the show. He's kind of conservative. I'd probably agree with him more than any other actor from Hollywood. But I mean, it's the reason a lot of people really dislike politics being injected into movies and video games and everything like that isn't necessarily the fact that it's politics they disagree with, but it's the fact that it's real life politics, and that breaks the kind of cognitive dissonance that you go to the movies to experience, or you play video games or something like that. So when that stuff gets injected into video games, it ruins it for literally everyone.
Well, and I actually never thought about the Tim Allen thing, because after Roseanne was such a hit, Tim Allen's show got picked back up. So it's going to be premiering again in the fall. Do you think, really? Yeah, so do you think this might have adverse effects on Tim Allen? He's not Roseanne, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, they might have, ABC might have recognized the fact that they have a considerable conservative audience. So there's a good chance that they're probably going to have maybe one or two conservative-leaning shows, if that means they get those conservative viewers, or actors that are conservative, like Roseanne Barr and like Tim Allen. So there's a good chance that they might bring some of those back. But those shows are going to be strenuously maintained at best, because those aren't the shows that, the higher ups at, ABC or whatever agree with politically. So, they'd probably be walking razor's edge.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that point. But the thing is the network television itself is a dying breed, not to mention cable television. People are unplugging from everything, especially after the digital switchover, where you had people in the middle of nowhere. Suddenly, they had to get a digital freaking receiver for their antenna and shit like that. And, I mean, it was all just ridiculous. For free TV, you ended up having to pay. And now, even with the digital receiver and stuff and an antenna, I can't get regular TV where I live. I literally watch everything on Netflix or Amazon or YouTube.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
that's actually...
Do you think you need a special antenna?
No, you hook up the regular antenna to the digital receiver or whatever, or you just use a smart TV. But still, I can't even with an antenna get a good signal anyway where I live, even when it was analog. But yeah,
you're not going to get a difference in analog versus digital. The antennas are antennas. There was a scam that went out that were talking about digital antennas, but that was literally a scam. Okay, there is no such thing as a digital antenna. An antenna is an antenna. It's going to receive RF or it's not going to receive RF. So now, as far as the digital signals go, all right, if you have an old analog television, what you're saying is true. But any television that was made since, in the year 2000 or later is digital, all right? It would be able to pick up digital signals. You just have to understand how to do that on your television.
Well, absolutely. But there are still people, believe it or not, that buy their TVs from Goodwill. They don't have the money to go buy a flat screen.
Oh, no. I know. I just want people to understand that because there were so many scams out there initially. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, no, it's fine. And I brought you up already because you were saying about it lowering their entertainment value. 40 is agreeing with you. Do you want to elaborate on the point you made in Discord yesterday about that?
Sure. The thing is whenever you're talking about an entertainer, regardless of what kind of entertainment that you're engaged in, you can be a singer, you can be a dancer, you can be a painter, okay, you can be a football star, a basketball star, any kind of sports star, right? Or you could be a television star. You're an entertainer. People view you for entertainment. And that even includes when you're talking about the news generally, all right? Even when you're a writer, all right, you are trying to entertain an audience of some sort, all right? When you lose, if you get political, especially in very hyperactive political environments that we find ourselves in currently, where people are very hypersensitive, all right, to the politics going on. If you do something, all right, that alienates that audience, that lowers your entertainment value to that individual, then you are basically costing who's ever involved in the production of this, all right, and putting the money up for that production. You're costing them money because you're costing them views. People will not watch you. Your entertainment value to that individual or to that group of individual is lowered significantly, and you can see this. And if you could go back to the Vietnam War era, all right, the two people that I like to mention during the Vietnam War era that really, from an entertainment value, screwed themselves in a lot of ways, were one, Muhammad Ali, all right, where people wouldn't watch Muhammad Ali fight, and there were other legal things that prevented Muhammad Ali from fighting. But the biggest thing is that people weren't going to take the chance on Muhammad Ali because he had alienated so many people. Now, at the same time that was going on, another individual named John Wayne also suffered significantly, all right, because he was very pro-Vietnam. He had made some overtly political statements, all right, to where the quote-unquote younger audiences that used to go and watch his cowboy movies and so forth, right, were turned off by them, and his value, his box office value, dropped significantly. All right. So when you make a political statement, when you go from being an entertainer and you make it a political statement, especially when it's public and you do it in a public environment. Now, this is a bit different. You can be political as an entertainer and do it privately. All right. And you won't suffer the consequences. But if you do it in a public setting, all right, what happens is people look at that as part of your public persona, and people will evaluate how entertained you can be with this. In certain circumstances, for example, there's several. I'm sorry for continuing. Just let me finish this one thing. There's several people, all right, who are movie stars that have been overtly political, and I will not watch their movies. Why? Because, at least initially, mainly because they've been so overtly political in certain areas that their ability to act won't be enough to overcome my disdain for their political activism. All right. And so therefore I'm not their value to me as an entertainer, my enjoyment of their acting, all right, has gone down significantly.
Well, my question is really to blame here? Because, before Roseanne, who knows if she was on Ambien? Like, I think I saw some shit on Twitter that she was blaming it on Ambien. That's funny. Or what if she was drunk or what have you? in the old days, like, okay, let's say when the first Roseanne show was out, she couldn't have done this to herself, right? She could have ranted to Tom Arnold, who was her husband at the time, about whatever, but it wasn't going to go out on Twitter to millions of people immediately. When you're in a drunken haze and you're like, fuck this fucking Valerie bitch. I know what joke will fucking make her cry. Yeah, well, it made you cry in the end because now you're unemployed. I mean, I'm not trying to blame Twitter for her being an idiot, but it is giving idiots a platform to shoot themselves on, right?
Okay. So everybody has a public platform now. Their public platform begins and it begins right at their computer screen.
Well, not only that, but their phone. But there's also another point here. The left has apologized numerous times for whatever stupid remark they make, and they get to keep their jobs. Roseanne apologizes, and that's a false apology. Fuck her, fire her, burn the witch.
Okay.
Well, what say you to that? What about some hypocrisy here, MC? It seems like you seem rather indifferent to it, which is surprising to me, because I see you call out the news outlets for their hypocrisy every day.
Or every other day at the very least, right? No, I do call them fake news about specific thing. That's very true. It's not the thing about it. The reason I sound blasé about it is because this is nothing new. The left has always been this way. All right. They're not doing anything that they haven't done in the past. All right. For decades, for crying out loud. All right. I mean, if you really want to take a look at it, I mean, you got people who basically, you had a U.S. senator, all right, who was the grand wizard of the KKK, all right, make the comment that there's white niggers too on national television, okay, on national TV, he said this, and yet no one called for his head. There wasn't this big outrage, okay. Now, this was Robert Byrd from West Virginia, in case people don't know, and this was was over a decade and a half ago that it happened. This is nothing new. So, yeah, is it wrong? Is it outrageous in that regard? Well, yeah, but what's the point of getting upset about it? Because it is what it is.
Well, it seems like the pitchforks always come out for anybody right of fucking Karl Marx, and that's kind of a problem to me. I wouldn't have made that stupid tweet. I really wouldn't have, especially if I had a show that was making me millions of dollars. I would have just fucking shut up. But she didn't. She made a joke, and now not only has she lost her job, but the cast, the crew who is not paid nearly as much as the cast will probably get to keep their contract money. The crew, the camera guys, the sound people, the editors, they don't. They're done. They're toast. All over a tweet.
That's true, but then again, I'm going to be real blunt with you. If you went to the Twitter for the Roseanne Barr cast, right? There is a Twitter for the cast, okay, and read the comments from people there, right? You would understand the fact that there were several people that were fans of the show that were highly upset and basically saying that they were going to boycott the show. So. That and the other fact that I mentioned is that it could very well have been, it wasn't just the people making these kind of comments. It was also possibly very much so that the cast members were making a huge issue of this. All right, at which point ABC is looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, do we have a fire situation where the whole thing is exploding and imploding on us, that even if we go forward, the crew can't get together and actually have acting? Are we going to have problems like this going on? And then, of course, you find out today, all right, the reports today that several of the people got called by Michelle Obama, all right, because they had their number directly. She had their number directly, and she basically told them to end the show. Okay, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did you want me to find the article on that?
I kind of do, to be honest.
Okay, well, go on while I look for the article.
Well, yeah, you brought up the Obamas. Well, that's interesting. They're calling for someone else to get fired that would probably be a competitor. They just signed a multi-million-dollar contract with Netflix. Their content will not be politically leaning in any direction. I believe them 100%. You know, there's no way they're going to insert any political message into their programming.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially because you had said previously that they were going to bring back Last Man Standing with Tim Allen. Is that correct?
Yeah, it should start be back in the fall. I follow Tim Allen on Twitter. I've liked his stuff ever since Home Improvement. So he announced it a month ago or two, like right when Roseanne took off. They picked up his show again. Kind of funny how that happened.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean that's the thing. I mean, with them competing against not just Netflix, which is a absolutely fucking enormous platform, but also competing with Hulu. I mean, the problem is that they will pander to literally any base that will watch their programs. So I mean, it doesn't, because it's not necessarily, you know, oh well, you know, oh, we don't agree with this message, because I think it is that to some extent. But as soon as they start to lose money, they're going to change their mind real fucking quick. Unless apparently they owe favors to the Obamas, I guess. Then you know, here it is. Then that'll certainly alter things a little bit, I would say. But I don't think they have room to fuck about. I think that they're certainly a dying media platform. They're going to do anything they can to get their hands on money.
Yeah, I agree. And you brought up the boycott thing. Well, right now, the conservatives are wanting to boycott ABC. But I saw a tweet that I think fits perfect here. Does anybody really watch ABC? My wife didn't even watch it on broadcast. She loves the new Roseanne. She watched it a day later through her phone or cast it to the TV. You know, nobody is watching this shit live. Nobody is.
I certainly don't. I honestly, I haven't watched cable television in let me see, I moved out like I don't think I've watched cable television in about seven or 8 years, to be honest. I haven't watched it in almost 10 fucking years.
Yeah, and I mean, nobody is. The ratings are plummeting, and they're still measuring them with the old Nielsen rating system, which is stupid as well, because they don't factor in all the streaming that people are doing. So I think network television is a dying breed. And maybe this will be one of the final nails in the coffin of ABC.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to lag my computer up. It's working perfectly right now. So one of you guys want to pull that article up and read a little bit out of it?
This might be a better one.
Yeah.
Pull the second
one. All right. Daily Mail. All right. So this is from the Daily Mail. Now Roseanne smears Michelle Obama! ! Disgraced TV star claims First Lady ordered ABC president to fire her while declaring she is not a racist, as her son posts texts proving comedian did not know Valerie Jarrett was black. Okay. I'm going to skip the little subtext. We're just going to read the article because that's an interesting title. Roseanne Barr was back on Twitter Wednesday morning just 5 hours after signing off around 3 a.m. local time in Hawaii. And the actress wasted no time addressing the controversy over her Valerie Jarrett tweet, writing, "I'm not a racist. I never was, and I never will be. One stupid joke in a lifetime of fighting for civil rights for all minorities against networks, studios, and and the expense of my nervous system, family, wealth will never be taken from me." The comment came hours after Roseanne Barr retweeted an outlandish statement suggesting that Michelle Obama played a role in her firing. Quote, according to sources, ABC President Channing Dungey, I don't know how to say that.
I would say Dungy.
Dungy? Okay. So Channing Dungy had a long conversation via phone with former First Lady Michelle Obama before deciding to cancel the Roseanne show, read the tweet. Michelle Obama was reportedly enraged and insisted an apology yeah, she wanted an apology.
Well, no, and what's ridiculous also is the head of Disney actually called Valerie Jarrett before they announced that they were firing Roseanne to tell her that they're firing Roseanne. So the Roseanne is the last one to know that her fucking job is gone. That's kind of ridiculous. That's not professional at all.
Yeah.
All right. Who you guys want to go over who Valerie Jarrett is?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, enlighten everybody. Because
wasn't she part of the Obama administration?
She is one of the advisors of the Obama during the Obama administration. She was one of his primary advisors. In fact, she was running the White House communications staff, right? So anything that was for public consumption basically came through her that she managed. But her relationship with the Obamas goes far, far deeper. And as evidence of that, right, her current residence is the same house as the Obama house in D.C. She stays with them in the same building. She lives in the same building as the Obamas in their D.C. little mansion of theirs. All right. That's how tight, that's how integrated, all right, Valerie Jarrett is with the Obamas. All right.
Wow.
Apparently you guys didn't know that.
No,
I didn't know that she was like their fucking roommate. They gave her a whole wing of the mansion or some shit. No, I didn't know that.
It wouldn't surprise me if they were much closer than that.
Okay.
Are you saying that's Obama's second wife? Is that what you're insinuating?
Well, I think it could be Michelle's wife.
Oh, snap. That's even better. Keep going, MC. This is great.
I swear to God.
No, I'm joking about some of that because there's obviously not been anything in there. But Valerie Jarrett's been extraordinarily close with the Obamas for a very, very long time. And I'm not joking about her living with the Obamas in that same mansion. That is not an exaggeration. They are currently living together. And they basically, and DC has even said this, they basically set up their own little shadow government of their own, right, to respond to anything that Trump would be willing to do.
Oh yeah, sure, Blue.
And this is one of the reasons why Trump issued his tweet today saying, well, you apologized to Valerie Jarrett. Where's my apology? Where's the apology for these people calling me an ape? And of course, you get dead silence from these people because like, the worst. This is going to have ramifications, political ramifications, all right, in the opposite direction than what ABC is thinking of. Now, ABC is also looking at this from a monetary perspective, and that part makes sense. You can't take that out of the equation from the way ABC and Disney is looking at this, all right? But the idea that this is going to have a negative ramification in Trump land, all right, all this is going to do is solidify support for Trump even more because it once again exposes the hypocrisy of Hollywood and the leftists when it comes to this kind of activity. All right. Yeah. This is a huge part of the issue. Now, there was a recent article by I think it was in the Politico, talking about how the right got the NFL and now the left has gotten their Rosie and they both got their scalps in it. This is a bad thing. Okay, well, yes and no. There are similarities to this case, and there's things that aren't similar about it. All right, with the NFL, right? The right didn't care about the players individually. The protest that was going on with the NFL was that they were protesting the owners not putting a stop to people disrespecting the flag. And okay, how is that political? You're creating a political environment around it. Okay, now the same thing could be said about this with Rosie. If you want to take racism and you want to make it political, and you're saying this is a political statement, all right, and that this is people playing politics, then yeah, okay, we're running into the same situation. But in reality, to be against racism cuts across political lines, or it should. If you're a conservative, all right, and you're a racist, you think racism is good, you're an idiot. It goes against everything that you think of, all right. It's antithetical to anything that you're doing. So how can you tolerate it? To say racism is wrong should just be a natural consequence of an American attitude, all right. Not necessarily political left or political right, but because everything has been politicized by the left, even standing for the national anthem, even standing for the flag has been politicized by the left. Okay, to such a degree, this kind of polarization has led to this. Now,
well, no, I agree with you, but the thing is, when the shoe's on the other fucking foot, it's not.
Well,
but an ape. How is that not racist?
That's a result. That's a result of that's a result of the mainstream media not being held accountable by people. Once again, like I said, this has been going on for decades. It's only recently that people are starting to see it. It's only recently that people are starting to be woken up to it.
But my contention is, if it's not racist for Bill Maher to compare Trump to an ape, which the picture he chose, come on, it looked kind of like Trump, kind of like Valerie Jarrett, does look kind of like the chick from Planet of the Apes. It's valid. It's an okay comparison, both sides. But I say neither of them are racist. It's not necessarily a racist joke comparing somebody to an ape, especially in the modern day where everybody fucking buys Darwin's shit hand over fist. We all came from apes, right?
Okay, but the racism aspect of that goes back deeper than that. All right, you can't ignore the historical ramifications of calling, black people, when black people were being called monkeys and little more than savages that just came out of Africa and so forth in the early parts of this country. You can't ignore that.
But what about the Irish? They had called the Irish the same thing. No, it's not a white or black issue. People have been saying this shit about many different races. But
the ramifications still exist and are still there. And you can't ignore that. All right. I can say that both of them. I can say that both of them are racist. I can say both of them are wrong because both of them are very disrespectful in certain regards. All right, depending upon how you're looking at it.
Buttercup was in here before the show, and we were just chatting. And I was telling her, I think this whole racism thing is just a ploy to divide us. Because I was born in '84. I was raised in the '90s. Raised to be colorblind, to care about individuals, not about their race. Now that is racist, even in itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean
you can't win for losing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole concept of doublethink, really. I mean, it's I see color. I acknowledge that people are different. What? Everyone's the same. That's racist. But, at the same time, the polar opposite, not seeing color, not acknowledging someone's white privilege, that is also racist. So it doesn't fucking matter. That's why it mystifies me why people will literally bend the knee to social justice. Or anything like that to the left, generally speaking. There are people that are like center left that fucking cool with me, but anyone that falls into the like social justice or Marxist or socialist camp, I mean, this kind of doublethink is touted to literally every other degree. Really, there's no way that you could possibly please these people because there's literally no winning. It's a system to not, quote unquote, acknowledge someone's privilege. It's a system literally built to just oppress people. That's literally all it is. It doesn't fucking matter who you are. It's just literally built on the grounds of power politics to seize power, to make money, and to literally oppress people doing it. That's all it fucking is.
Well, no, and I would like a simple question: who has the more privilege in this situation, Roseanne or Valerie Jarrett? either Roseanne, who is a star, she has made millions, or Valerie Jarrett, who lives with the former president, who's running his own shadow fucking government in D.C. to undermine the current administration. Who the more privileged in this situation? The one that got fired, or the one who got fucking Michelle to get a hold of ABC? Who is more privileged?
Valerie Jarrett recently got fired by Netflix, so.
But I mean,
I don't think you can look at either one of them and say that they're per se more privileged than the other one. I mean, both of them have a lot of money, and that buys you privilege to a large extent in the United States.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the problem: is that this is that question is a conundrum that can literally never be solved. I remember, shit, I cannot remember when it was. It was sometime last year. I do remember that. Sometime late last year, on a New York subway, there was a black guy sitting in what do you call those shitty, awful little trains? A subway, right? Sitting in a little subway in New York, and he was manspreading. He was showing his junk to the world, and he was spreading his legs like every awful male, right? So this white woman comes onto the train, and she tries to explain to him that he's manspreading and that he needs to close his legs. And so the black guy, God bless him, not all heroes wear capes, gets up, punches this stupid bitch in the face like one or two times, and then he just like gets off the train and like walks away. But I mean, that's the fucking conundrum. I mean, who in this instance has privilege? You know, is it the white woman who's out oppressing the black man, or is it the male who is trying to suppress this this woman? Is he mansplaining things to her? I mean, just taking this circumstance verbatim, at face value, realistically, no one in this situation is oppressed. I mean, you're talking about two people, Roseanne, who makes millions through television shows, and this Valerie Jarrett, her name was? Yes,
Valerie Jarrett.
Yeah, Valerie Jarrett, who, let's face it, probably makes millions in the political realm.
Oh yeah.
If she's living with the Obamas, she can't be making 77 cents for every man's dollar.
She's well off. She's very well off.
Oh yeah.
So, but no, I mean, look, I realize that I may sound blasé about this, but this has been going on for decades and decades and decades. All right, how the left has viewed this has been going on. There's nothing new about this. Right? People would go on freaking tirades in Hollywood for a long time if they were the right persuasion, if they had the right groupthink, their foibles and everything were ignored. Nick Nolte, for example. Nick Nolte got away with all sorts of crap until it just got so far out of control because of the number of times he was appearing, on police blotters that they couldn't ignore it, just how bad he had gotten. All right. But the reality is that he'd been making an ass of himself, for quite a bit longer than that, right? Then you turn around and compare that to, Gary Busey, who gets in trouble basically once, but because he's not part of the in crowd, the group think, they basically try to burn him to the stake. All right, so I mean, there has always been a kind of a double standard throughout Hollywood. All right. And it goes back and forth. Don't get me wrong. But there's always been this kind of back and forth kind of a thing. But when it came to the press and it came to the media has been so married to the left for so many decades, right? They can't find their way out. And they don't know how to find a way out.
MC, is it a bad thing when you said the left, tirades, and old school, all of a sudden just James Carville pops into my mind, and I'm like, I miss James Carville. Well, the interesting thing is, all I know is he would be that guy on TV that my dad was watching, and he was just yelling so much. He was so passionately screaming about something, and I don't know, for some reason, as a young kid raised in a pretty liberal household, I'm like, he must be a Republican because he seems very angry.
James Carville?
Yes.
James Carville was part of the Clinton administration. He's been a hardcore leftist his entire career.
I realize that. It's just from my perspective. He was the angry man on TV.
He was the angry man on TV, and what he was doing is he was railing to create emotional support to demonize Ken Starr. That was his entire role during that time frame.
Well, he did a good job.
He did a great job. It was effective.
I just didn't really understand
you let a corrupt individual, and basically you let a corrupt individual named Bill Clinton get away with criminal activity as president of the United States, and it continues to this day. Congratulations. Well done. Not you.
Well,
exactly, memes.
Yeah, memes. How dare you? No.
Wait, what?
Nothing. You didn't do anything wrong yet.
Yet.
Yeah, yet. But no, it seems to me everything Disney. Yeah,
well,
there is.
You can never trust leftists like you. Come on, memes. You know that.
But.
Hashtag not all.
No, but it seems to me it's turned to ash and just slip through their fucking fingers. I would include Roseanne with this because Disney owns ABC, and they're the ones that pulled the trigger on firing her. Now, if they're allowed to shop this show around, I don't know if any other outlet would touch it because of what she got fired for. They don't want to be seen as a racist network. Could you imagine?
Oh,
no. Picking up Roseanne?
I can see several groups trying to pick it up, especially certain cable outlets would definitely try to pick it up, because if for no other reason, if their audience is very small and all of a sudden they pick up something like that from a cable network that's very small, it gains them followers and notoriety immediately. There's a lot of reasons why they would do that. Now, the bigger question, would be whether or not ABC would be willing to sell it. Would ABC be willing to sell that show to somebody else? I don't think ABC will.
But wouldn't that violate ABC as a for-profit corporation's fiduciary duty to its stockholders?
Would it violate that? Yeah, but then again, they're leftists first.
But they owe a fiduciary duty.
They're still leftists first.
They owe a fiduciary duty.
Once again, they're leftists first.
Okay, that way this doesn't go forth for the next hour like that.
Duck season.
Yeah,
well, if you wonder what I mean by that is, and this is something that people have got to recognize. Take a look. Take a look right now at Peter Strzok. All right, Peter Strzok was the FBI agent who basically said we need an insurance policy against Trump. All right, that's somebody that is holding their ideology, all right, higher than their other duties. Now, he's supposed to be an FBI agent first.
Did he really mean it, or was he just kind of just pissing into the wind to play up to his girlfriend?
No, he really meant it. If you take a look at those texts, or where they were going back and forth, one of his comments was, "I would like to believe the scenario that you laid out, you and McCabe laid out in the meeting, but we can't trust that. We need an insurance policy in case he wins."
Were any of these other text messages implicating an insurance policy between anyone else aside from him and his gal pal?
Yeah, McCabe.
Oh.
There are several things that are indicating that it was several different high level individuals, all right, that were a part of this. And if you also add into the fact
McCabe get fired?
Yes, McCabe did get fired.
Oh, okay.
He's the one who's got fired and whom the IG has said you need to start a criminal investigation against him.
Ooh, no pension. Ooh, yeah, that's not good.
Okay, so, but what I'm trying to point out here is that when you have a very strict ideology, all right, and your ideology will at times override your concerns from a monetary level. Okay.
Well, I was going to say if ABC, they could always pitch it as, well, the financial dollar amount we would gain it would be sullied money or something. They could say their image is worth more than that. So, I mean, you could pitch it that way too.
Well, no, because ABC could just sell it off and they wouldn't have anything to do with it. It wouldn't be part of their group. But at the same time, there's nothing that says if they own something like that, if they own the rights, and I don't know if they do. But if they own the creative rights to the Roseanne Barr show, then they don't have to sell it.
What if a very wealthy individual came and made an offer? They would be obligated to offer a response then.
No, they could just ignore it. They don't even have to respond.
So, but what are they going to do? Lock it in a vault for another 20 years? Roseanne won't live that long. I mean,
and like that would bother them.
What if that individual also happens to point out that they owe a fiduciary duty to their stockholders? It would need to be somebody savvy in business. Of course, President Trump couldn't do that, and the Trump Corporation would look bad. If only there was a very wealthy individual that may feel they have something to prove.
All right, but who's going to do that? Unless it's going to be something along the lines of Breitbart or something like that to make that kind of a push, right? Who's going to dig into their pockets and do something like that? Most people
would want to troll certain people right now that has a lot of money.
What about the wine? The fucking Koch brothers. What about them?
Well, that's just to be expected, and no, that just seems kind of dumb.
They could do something like that if they were truly committed to it. But of course, the Koch brothers are very much in the anti-Trump crowd.
Yeah, they were actually donating a bunch of money to the Libertarian Party last election.
Yes, they were.
Do that again, but yeah,
because they were.
I kind of like the Koch brothers.
I see how this goes.
The only reason they were giving money to them was simply to try and drive votes away from Trump. They're very anti-Trump. But if we're talking those two, those specific individuals, now are there other people that could take up that mantra? Yeah, there are ones that can do it. I mean, for crying out loud, Rupert Murdoch does have the money. Now he's old. His children are not of his political bent. All right. So, but at the same time, they are very well connected. All right. So could they do something like that? Could Fox News pick up something like, Fox as a whole, 21st Century Fox pick this up and try to make a play for it? Yeah. Sure, they could. Will they? I don't know. I kind of doubt it. And like I said, there's nothing that says that ABC should sell it. All they have to do is say, well, we're thinking about bringing it back on our own. We're thinking about bringing it back on our own. That's all they have to do is to keep stringing it along.
Well, how about this? I mean, just there's so much going around about this in MC. I know you and myself, we had, I think actually all of us had mentioned or pondered this the other day. Like, what if somebody were to bring it back, or regardless of whatever happens, what if ABC, realizing that many shows in subsequent seasons after being popular often see a decline in ratings? And this very often happens with shows that they bring back as well, which Roseanne would happen to fit in that category as well. What if the hasty canceling ends up having them realize a lot of folks wish to actually want to see the show more? And what if they could actually utilize this as a wise man once said, a teachable moment, and actually pitch it as the very first episode or so, they actually go into this and they deal with this exact issue on the show and just see where it goes.
I mean, you could play that, but then again, if the stories of the involvement of the Obamas and Jarrett are accurate with the canceling, I don't see that happening. And granted, these are pretty big ifs. I mean, to be honest, we're hearing, what evidence do we really have that such a phone call took place? ABC is not denying that, but just because they're not denying it doesn't mean that
the chairman of Disney came out and said that they called Valerie Jarrett directly. They came out.
No. I'm talking about the one with Michelle Obama. That Michelle Obama basically told them to cancel it.
Wait, do they live in the same home or?
Yes. Michelle Obama, Barack Obama and Valerie Jarrett all live in the White House mansion, or not the White House, but the mansion in DC, the Obama compound mansion in DC. They live under the same roof.
The Obama comp.
The Obama White House, the secondary White House, the shadow government, as has been stated by many other people in the press.
But wait, how did Wait, how did Michelle get the show canceled again?
She was talking to one of the directors of ABC.
Well, were they like scheduled to meet? Did they have a dinner? Or...
No, she called them up.
Oh, well, she was probably pissed off.
Well, okay, let's be honest about this. There's an incestuous relationship between Hollywood, all right, and the Democrat Party. They have each other's backs. Hollywood is probably their single biggest donor base, aside from several different unions. But in reality, as a whole, what goes on in DC, Hollywood has far more representation, all right, than the average person. And when it comes to the access to Democratic politicians, all right, for crying out loud, it's the Democrat politicians that keep frickin' calling these actors and actresses up, all right, so that they can comment in public forums, all right, about things like farming bills and because this actor once played a farmer, Sissy Spacek once played a coal miner, so we're gonna have her come in and talk about coal mine safety.
Well, it's the basic aspects of power. It's capital and connections.
So. No, but I agree.
Does that make it wrong, though?
I didn't say it was wrong. I said that they have. It's not. It wouldn't be. What I'm trying to point out is that it wouldn't be a surprise that Michelle Obama has these people's numbers on a speed dial.
Well, I'm sure that nobody in or around politics would ever have a bunch of famous people on speed dial, especially if maybe they also worked in the industry as well. I'm sure certain folks have many people on speed dial. Some may say it's the hugest of speed dial lists.
Oh well, I mean, you have that, but I'm just all I'm trying to do is point out that's why they
it
would
could
have
be
this
and again,
all I was trying to say. I'm not trying
the Obamas are private citizens, and again, if President Barack Obama did that, yes, I would look into words, but having the former first lady call up somebody who I would assume is a friend of hers to bitch and complain, I mean, as a person working at a job, I mean, wouldn't that be
Are you assuming that the Obamas do not have political power right now?
One's decisions. I mean, MC, to say that Michelle Obama was the reason the show got canceled, Roseanne did come out. She apologized apparently shortly thereafter or the next morning or whatever at 10:31, 33. And it's like there was a lot of heat. And I mean, hey, I had the discussion when you were first explaining it to me the other day. I'm like, when you told me what she said, I'm like, yeah, that's...
Oh, it's beyond the pale.
That's racist. I mean, like, yeah, that sounds racist. And like, especially like when you look into it, I'm like,
it's beyond the pale.
I get it. But it's just, let's face it, man. It wasn't really done in jest. It was done with venom.
No, it was done in spite.
Yeah.
It was she was trying to she did it to be mean. Specifically to be mean with Valerie Jarrett. There's no doubt about that in my mind. All right. There's no doubt in my mind that she was trying to be insulting to Valerie Jarrett. All right.
Yeah. But I mean it like you were pointing out before, I mean it just goes to show the hypocrisy. How many big Hollywood stars have gone on to call Trump, a tyrant, a fascist, orange Hitler and whatnot.
The Cheeto Fuhrer.
Yeah, I mean,
I love that one.
Yeah, I would find Hitler to be a little more of an appalling insult than, a fucking ape.
Well, the Cheeto Fuhrer. I mean, that's just a fucking meme. And let's face it, I'm pretty sure Donald Trump would like Cheetos. If not, I could be completely wrong. I kind of like Cheetos, but then I eat too many and then I hate them. But yeah, no, actually, one of our friends didn't they compare him to like an orange orangutan?
Oh yeah.
Who was that?
Several people have done that. Bill Maher has done that several times.
Yeah, Bill Maher did that.
Well, that seems like a very Bill Maher thing to do, though.
Joey Reid has done that. I think that the View has done something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's something that's happened several different times now, but it doesn't have the racial component to it. Whether you want to draw that distinction or not, that distinction exists. It does exist, whether you like it or not. That distinction you can't just ignore that and say that it doesn't exist. It does.
Well, that's true, but I mean, at the same time, I, I have to kick back a little bit on that. I mean, those racial distinctions have always existed. They always will exist, as far as we can tell, until everyone becomes this weird, homogenous group called human. I suppose we have the same skin tone a trillion years from now or something, but I mean,
No, I don't think we'll ever all have the same skin tone. I think genetics is genetics, and some people will always be, lighter colored or lighter skin, or darker colored or darker skin than somebody else. I don't ever believe we'll all have the same.
We'll all be slightly different shades of olive.
Yeah, but I mean, what I was trying to say is that that's a component that is literally always going to exist. I mean, why people haven't come to terms with that and just accepted it as a reality is fucking ridiculous. There's going to be black people out there that are going to call me cracker and say I'm racist. It's like fucking whatever. I don't care. So why people get bent up about the whole racial component like that doesn't, I don't understand why.
A lot of it is, I think, I really do think that a lot of it is because people are using it for dramatic effect. People are using it to gain an advantage in a discussion, in a conversation, in an argument. That's what it's being used by.
Wait a second.
It's being used for.
But MC, so what you're saying is we're just blasting off the chain lightning and fireball spells when all we need are magic missiles.
Oh, sure. But when people
doesn't know what you mean.
What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. You're talking about D&D, basic level spell magic missiles.
Yeah, get on the same fucking spell level.
Exactly what I meant.
3 is a fireball. You still want to play?
Yeah, come on, Mad Dodge.
Yeah, fuck. I didn't know you were as geeky as the rest of us. Damn. In the chat, Bold Like a Leper says, don't forget they were making fun of Trump about his tiny cock. Well, to be more accurate, it was his tiny hand. But that is what they were alluding to.
Guys, did you... there's this wonderful little channel called I'm going to give a shout out right now, The Birds and the BS. If one were to look at that channel, they actually have an episode addressing just that.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, but like I was saying before. Hands?
Go ahead, 40. I just had to throw out addressing what tiny hands, but go ahead, 40. Sorry.
No, but it's just like, again, insulting someone, based on the size of their taint. Like, who fucking cares? Everyone who watches that they know that it's a joke. They know that this isn't a serious argument. It's not addressing policy or fiscal issues or anything like that. It can just be easily disregarded.
Well,
so if Trump
yes and no. I mean, people get offended on a personal level by different things.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
That's reality. That's how human beings are. Some things that people think would not be very significant, other people would find absolutely beyond the pale.
Yeah, no, I understand, right? But it's just like there's the black guy that has to sit his kid down and just be like, listen, people are gonna call you niggers, right? And there are gonna be black people that are say, oh, you're an awful, whip cracking slave boy. Josh, you're the reason slavery
Are you
exists,
trying to give parenting advice?
Yes, I'm
Are you a parent?
Yes, I'm going to call my children niggers. Yes.
I would not recommend that.
But it's no. I mean, I don't mean that earnestly, but I mean, there's going to be people that hate Jews. There's going to be people that hate Muslims. Everyone just fucking hates everyone. It's like why people haven't fucking accepted this is beyond me. I mean, it's just a matter of sitting down and explaining to someone that you have to be fucking mature when it comes to these matters, or these matters, I should say.
40, I just realized something. I actually think you may have solved the problem of hatred in the world. I actually need to refer this over to MC for calculational purposes. So if everybody hates everybody, if everybody has a negative, if we know that if we apply negatives to negatives, we apply that, it then becomes a positive, right?
No, it doubles up and becomes even a larger negative. -2 plus -2 equals -4.
No.
-2
No, we're not adding.
1 equals
we're
-3.
multiplying. We are multiplying here, MC.
Wait, why are we adding and multiplying?
So if you want to play the multiplying game, then what you end up with is a freaking pendulum. -1 times -1 equals 1 times -2 equals -2 times negative
Are you saying
3
we're
is 6
bipolar?
times negative
We're
times
exponentially
4
bipolar.
-4
I
equals
apologize to
-20.
anyone that's bipolar.
Would I say something like that? No.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, if you actually look like what Floyd pointed out, if you realize, yeah, folks are going to hate and shit like that. You don't necessarily know who or when, but if you can acknowledge that that's going to happen, I think if we understand each other more, then I don't know. I think we'll get it. I think we'll be better wizards.
Well, I mean,
I think
you're kidding yourself, because there are always wizards who want to use that to their advantage. There are always the Voldemorts out there. There's always the Voldemorts out there that know how to manipulate that to their advantage.
Yeah,
and let's be honest, most wizards are stupid.
There will always be the Potters as well.
No, but I was watching some black guys take on this earlier the day before we started the show, and he said that what Roseanne said was racist. Fine, I'll accept that. I think Bill Maher's comparison with Trump though can also be construed as racist, but whatever. Let's move on. But he also, towards the end of the video, he said, "I don't care if it's racist. They shouldn't have fired her." Because really, that doesn't affect me if she's fucking making a stupid racist joke. Just knock it off your shoulder like a piece of dirt. Fuck it. And I think more people need to look at the world like that, especially when the media is to drive this racial undertone to the whole Trump presidency.
Well, how are you going to do that when you know that the media is going to do it that way, and that there's too many people have been raised, all right, whether we like it or not, to look for the excuse of why they don't get ahead. I don't get ahead because they gave that freaking job to the white man. I don't get ahead because they gave that job to the illegal alien. I don't get ahead because they gave that job to the Native American. All right. How are you going to that's how the world currently within the United States right now, unfortunately. That is a major aspect of excuse making that's been freaking promoted, all right, with this kind of an attitude. Excuse making, victim. You're always a victim. This is part of the victimization culture.
You're right, but if you shake off the chains of identity politics, look at people as individuals, then you no longer have the racial undertones. You don't hate Tyrone because he's black. You don't hate fucking whatever Muhammad because he's fucking Muslim. You hate them because they're an individual who did something wrong to you, or you don't hate them and you move on with your fucking
You're fighting all the mainstream media then, and you have to understand that.
Well, couldn't you just fix this all with, like MD was saying, if you're just going to toss off some change, just replace it with the blockchain?
You're talking about putting black people in chains again? Is that what you just said?
Wait, no, fucking the blockchain. You know what I'm talking about, MC, better than probably anyone here. I still don't really understand fully how this shit works. All I know is my brother's like, take all your money, invest it right now. It doesn't matter if it goes up or down as long as there's volatility. I'm like, no. But it's one of those things. It's like, well, what's a blockchain do? It establishes a method of tracking things, multi-verifiable by pretty much everybody. So it's like you have redundancy and redundancy. It's like, well, what if you had certain things that are kind of run by the blockchain, and if the blockchain can actually help generate you some wealth by actually using it in a method that may actually be useful, why the fuck not?
Okay. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but I think it was it was Thomas Hobbes that summed it up perfectly, and he was speaking specifically to anarchy with this quote, but he goes on to say something about, like, in a state of nature, it's every man is enemy to every man. And what's funny is that I think this kind of transcends anarchy to some degree. I think that pretty much sums up society in its entirety. It doesn't necessarily matter what kind of society that you're talking about. Every man is enemy to every man. And what was it? the only thing that really safeguards a man is, you know, his own ambitions and his own will to innovate and his own defenses. And that's especially something you see in an individualistic society. And so when you see people that do not have the ability to innovate, they don't have the ability to get ahead. Like you were saying, MC, you know, them damn Mexicans took my job and shit. They took our jobs. You'll see people who they will shift the blame because they don't have the ability to innovate, and they're not necessarily a leader, but they might as well just be someone who's more of a follower. Okay, and it's not necessarily supposed to be insulting, but again, it's a society where.
But
it's a
society has to, then the press has to be willing and intentionally, constantly trying to promote that viewpoint of individuality. But that's not what they're doing.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
society
yeah.
has attacked that when it comes down to individual achievement, individual, you know, to celebrate an individual going out there by himself, the rugged individualism, the cowboy attitude. If you call somebody a cowboy now, it used to be when you called somebody a cowboy before, that was pretty much not a good thing. It was pretty much a good thing. Now it's a pejorative.
Yeah,
Wait,
that's true. But I
thought
mean,
people like cowboys.
Really? You're going to tell me it's not a pejorative when people, including some people on this stream, have called frickin' Bush a cowboy?
I like cowboys.
If you're referring to me, I don't remember calling him a cowboy. I remember calling him an idiot, but not a cowboy.
There are several. I've heard you say it. I've also heard it's other people that aren't currently on the stream say it. But
I thought he was a cowboy.
Well, he does have a ranch.
Yeah, like,
he does have a ranch.
and he rides. Like I don't. What?
Have you ever seen him circle or you know?
I haven't seen many pictures or videos of him actively riding. I have seen him on a horse, I believe.
Have you seen him freaking throwing a rope?
No.
Okay. Let me know when you see him throwing.
I have seen President Obama shoot some basketball.
Okay, and is that a stereotype?
I mean, he wasn't the greatest.
Well, he's not Michael Jordan.
What?
No.
I'm just saying, what's wrong with that? And the man likes to shoot some b-ball, and the man likes to spend time on his ranch around his animals. What's wrong with that?
Well, what's wrong with that is this, all right? And with Barack Obama, I think that's probably the second or maybe third time he ever picked a basketball up in his life.
Well,
it's the same problem that I had with Jimmy Carter, all right, carrying his quote-unquote luggage. It's done for show. It's not reality.
I could believe Jimmy Carter would carry his own luggage. I thought he farmed peanuts.
Didn't, though.
Oh,
he would come down Air Force One with his quote-unquote luggage in his hand in an absolutely empty suitcase.
Well, they want the president getting hurt.
No, it had nothing to do with that. He did it strictly for image, to present a false image to the public.
Is he going to pull a hammy?
Okay. Now, and unfortunately, you know where he learns that kind of crap? They learn that kind of crap at frickin' the military academies.
Oh, to make it look like you're doing more than you're actually doing.
You know, to try and impress the troops.
Oh, you mean like walking around with a clipboard in the office and automatically makes you look 15% more productive?
Yeah, basically.
Oh, yeah, I may have done that.
Oh, so we have you to blame. Now I have a name to go with it.
Hey, I've only been on this planet so long. You know, I credit me so much.
Okay, I think we beat the freaking Roseanne Barr story to death.
Okay, yeah. So, you posted a story in the Discord. You want to go into that a little bit?
No, which one? The one on the knives?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about UK politics.
I like that.
And the stupidity it's becoming.
What's going on?
Let me see if I can. Let me pull up that story if you don't mind. We'll talk about this and then we'll talk about the next one, if you don't mind. All right, this is from the Telegraph. This is from the Telegraph. A judge has proposed a nationwide program. Now, this isn't in the United Kingdom. A nationwide program to file down the points of kitchen knives as a solution to the country's soaring knife crime epidemic. Last week, in his valedictory speech, retiring Luton Crown Court Judge Nick Mage spoke of his concern that carrying a knife has become routine in some circles and called on the government to ban the sales of large pointed kitchen knives. All right. Latest figures show stabbing deaths among teenagers and young adults have reached the highest level for 8 years, and knife crime overall rose 22% in 2017. In the past 2 months, he said, there have been 77 knife-related incidents in Bedfordshire, including 3 killings. Judge Mage told the assembled judges, barristers, and court staff, these offenses often seem to be motiveless. One boy was stabbed because he had an argument with a couple of years before at a junior high school or at his junior school. He said laws designed to reduce the availability of weapons to young would-be offenders had almost no effect, since the vast majority had merely taken knives from the cutlery drawer. A few of the blades carried by the youths were the so-called Rambo knives or samurai swords. Now, you're not going to be doing a lot of stabbing with a samurai sword, because a samurai sword is not meant for stabbing. It is meant for as a slashing weapon. All right. So
it's also not easy to conceal.
Well, that's very true. If you're walking down the street with a samurai sword, pretty much people are going to be able to identify that. That is a very good point.
Well, you're wielding your full dice show. I mean, people might ask some questions. I mean, unless you're going to like an anime convention. I mean, that's a given.
All right. Though they are in the very small minority, right? The reason why these measures have little effect is that the vast majority of knives carried by youths are ordinary kitchen knives. Every kitchen, right, contains lethal knives, which are potential murder weapons. Now, one of the funniest things that I saw responding to the story was done by Omegon. All right, where he says, "Have you ever seen this?" And he shows a picture of a meat cleaver. a meat cleaver doesn't have a point. He is right about that, and he's also right. It would do a hell of a lot more damage if people were swinging rows around in public.
Well, it's the proper utensil used to cut bone. I actually used to sell knives.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question though. All right, I've talked about it before, but I've went to a pirate festival here in Oregon. But they have Renaissance festivals all over the UK. Is it going to be illegal to carry a broadsword? I mean, this is a legit concern. I mean,
were you carrying your musket? Were you carrying your flintlock pistol?
There was real blades at the pirate festival, real swords. Yes.
Well, I mean, if you're at a pirate festival and you don't have freaking pistols, I mean, what good are you?
Well, okay, I'm not like rich. I don't have a flintlock, but you know, you can get a cheap sword online for pretty,
Yeah, okay.
Pretty
well, first
easily,
of all, if you're going to talk about swords, let's be honest. The swords that you see online, the things that are going to cost you maybe $50 to $150, those are shit swords. Okay.
Yeah.
They're absolute shit. They're not meant. They're meant as decorations. They're meant as
MC. What if you spent the $10K and you got a replica super sword?
Well, if you
that is a fucking sword.
Yeah, if you're going to spend $10K and you don't have an actual samurai sword, you overspent your money. All right, but there are swordsmiths that do actually build swords. They are expensive. They're going to cost you from about $700 up. Okay, now I'm not talking samurai swords. I'm not talking true samurai swords. I'm just talking regular swords.
Yeah, just like the show that I actually like on History Channel, Forged or whatever. Forged in Fire, Forged in, I don't know, but it's just about.
But you don't see them. You see them doing. You see them doing various things, but the steel that they utilize and how. Okay, many people know about folding weapons and folding the material back in and on top of itself, right? And there's several reasons for doing that when you're trying to make a weapon or a bladed weapon of some sort, right? Because what you're trying to do is you're running a comparison between hardness, which can become extraordinarily sharp. All right, the harder steel is, the finer the point you can put on it, right? The sharper you can make the edge.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do that, as hard as that metal is, it also becomes more brittle. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So, and when you're talking about a sword that's brittle, if it hits something rather than cuts through something, like if it hits an armor plate or it hits somebody's shield or something like that, it could possibly break. It could possibly chip. If it hits another sword, gouges could be taken out of it. So at the same time, you need it to be flexible. Flexibility comes from the softer steel. Okay.
Yep.
So generally, they'll use a mixture on these different steels in order to create these things. Now, there's a number of websites. Some of these guys build these custom swords and so forth, but they're not truly trying. Some of these people are just trying to imitate the generics of how these things were built, all right, rather than going into them. There are also some very good ones where they go into the making of the steel swords. I've seen Viking swords on YouTube made. I've seen the samurai swords. I've seen other swords that were made, and it's all very interesting to me. I mean, I personally enjoy looking at these things because it's like very interesting in the technology. But these things are going to cost. If you're really going to spend the time for these people to do it, all right, you're talking weeks of people putting in, sweat and tears. You're not just talking that you walk in and you go, okay, these things just came off an assembly line, all right? They're going to be, if you're going to get a sword of that quality, okay, it's going to be expensive. People are going to put in time to make these things.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a Damascus steel dagger that was given to me for Christmas a few years back. And it doesn't even have a maker's mark on it. It's pretty old, but I keep it put up. That way I don't lose it or something. It's one of my favorite knives that I actually have. I have quite a bit of knives. They would hate me in the UK.
Yep. you would just be another prisoner. No big deal.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, like, fucking dude, to be honest, like, I don't understand why people go out and dump like $100, $200, $300 on these, shitty swords. I've made shit. I'm not even kidding you. I have an actual, I have it's like a repurposed wood stove, but it essentially operates like as my forge. I've turned actual like metal files into operational knives. It's really not that fucking hard. It's literally like 4 or 5 YouTube videos, and you've got it down. I don't know why people go and spend like fucking $400 on shit.
So, Forty, you're saying you have an illegal weapons production factory?
It's not illegal to have your own forge. How do you, off air though, I want you to tell me how you turn your wood stove into a forge and get it hot enough. Dude, because I would like to know how to do that.
You can do it with a hairdryer.
You don't know how to do that? It's just a matter of airflow.
You got to get it fucking hot as hell, though. Come on,
you don't need. You just need airflow. That's the thing people don't realize. To get these temperatures up, you need oxygen. That's how they do it. They just blow in oxygen.
Yeah. Well, and the trick is you can't just be like throwing wood in there. Like you have to use coal. So you got to burn wood down to coal in order to like maintain a consistent source of heat. Because I mean, it depends on how. I don't know if we want to actually go into this in depth, but I mean, you do have to get it to a specific temperature in order to. It's hard to explain. You essentially have to soften the metal when you first heat it, essentially, and that requires pretty high temperatures. So you want to use coal, so it's not going to be like 12-year-old Steve goes out, buys like a little fire pit or something in his backyard, and then he's making 13th century swords or something like that.
Well, yeah, you don't see wrought iron literally as a puddle in the ground at 136 degrees.
Well, no, and I'm guessing it would be a bad idea to do it with my wood stove I have inside the house. That sounds like a bad plan. So yeah.
That's a real bad plan.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Yeah.
It's negative Ghost
Well,
Rider.
there went that idea. There went me making some swords. Damn it, guys.
No, but one of the best things, old cast iron sink. If you hook up a hair dryer in the proper way, like MC said, with the airflow, you can just fill that with coal and you can have a forge for probably like $50.
You can do that, but the best thing to do would be to line it still.
Yes,
with,
what MC said.
Yeah, plaster of Paris, some sand.
Yeah, there's certain things you could do. There's certain bricks that you can use. There's also the liners. There's some soft liners you could use. But the stuff's out there. Anybody who really is interested in doing that kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, I want to stop you right there. All right. So we just described how even 40 in California, of all fucking places, can make his own knives. Okay. What is stopping people from England who, I don't know, have a heritage of fucking building swords and blacksmithing, and it was their way of life for hundreds of years? What makes people think they're going to be able to remove sharp weapons from these people? I think it's almost as stupid as coming for R-22s. You might be able to make 60% of America agree that an AR-15 is bad, but good luck making 60% of Americans believe that you can't own a fucking 22 or a 308. Okay? It's not going to
You might be able to get
happen.
city dwellers to believe it's bad.
And it's not going to
stop the zombies.
Yeah. How will we deal with the zombies? Fucking checkmate, Democrats.
It's a lot easier to carry 10,000 rounds of 22 ammo than it is fucking larger caliber shit.
Crossbow.
Oh, we're going back to yesterday's convo with the zombie shit.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, well, we had a great conversation about The Walking Dead yesterday, and that got brought up, actually. I figured maybe you watched the show. It was short enough for your attention span memes.
Oh, I'm saying it because I mentioned it.
Where did that come from?
Wait, what?
Why are you attacking memes? What did memes
I'm
do
not
now?
attacking. I'm not attacking. That was friendly banter.
You just basically caused that he has a short attention span.
He knew I was there. I was there for like 5 minutes.
Oh, so
See?
you do have a short attention span. My mistake. Okay, it's all good.
Ooh, piece of candy.
Yeah, shiny.
Anyway, but no, it isn't going to make any sense. But it shows you just how delusional, all right, these people are, thinking that the problem is the weapons. All right, the problem isn't the weapons. The problem is that you have multiple cultures living directly in contact with one another now, and those cultures are not interested in assimilating with each other. They're not. Yeah.
Well, no, there was something done by, I think it was Redeye TV or something. One of those Scandinavian groups that one of the very few that's actually reporting on these matters, and they had actually brought up from police reports that a majority of the violence that actually happens between, especially like in regards to migrants, a lot of the violence happens to other migrants. So, it's awful to see, like in Germany where this MP's daughter gets fucking brutally raped and murdered and shit. But I mean, realistically, you have to think how many unreported incidents are actually happening in these migrant camps that no one knows anything about. I mean, a lot of the violence is happening from migrants to other migrants because they're not, like you said, they're not assimilating. They're not interacting as much with the native population.
Well, but there's also the aspect that the people that are trying to interact with the native population are the ones that are going to be attacked by the immigrant. An immigrant that's trying to assimilate is basically putting themselves in a position where they can be attacked by the people who don't want assimilation. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you look at the segregation that's going on, I want to point more towards France than London in this instance, because Paris has certain areas where they'll even tell you don't fucking go there. If you're a tourist or what have you. So that's where all these people end up living, and I'm guessing they're not all extremists, but the ones that aren't are being pushed around by the ones that are.
Yeah, they're basically the ones that are going to be the victims, the overall victims of the other groups. This is the idea that you can't.
How do we help the lobsters?
How do you help the lobsters? Add butter.
I like both those things.
Maybe some garlic salt. I don't know.
So what's the butter in this analogy?
The butter in this analogy is
Yes.
a boot to the head.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't sound very buttery of you.
Okay. You asked what the butter would have to be in this analogy. You're not gonna find something that's sweet and nice about this. That's
No. You're electing to go with Mad Dog Inferno. We haven't even kicked up to Sriracha yet, man.
Okay, well, let's go back to how are these things? How did these things happen in the past? How did assimilation take place in the past? All right. One, you limited immigration. All right, and sometimes you actually ended it for different time periods. That's the peaceful way. The non-peaceful way is you put the boot down. That's history. If you find something in history where cultures freaking interact, whenever cultures come into contact with each other, if two cultures come in contact with each other, you can either have A kills B, B kills A, or if they're close enough, they'll eventually amalgamate to a C. Okay, so how do you get C to amalgamate peacefully? You allow long periods of time to take place and limited interaction to let the fusion take place over a long time in both directions. Guess which one it rarely is able to happen in the world of today.
So okay, I hear what you're saying, MC, and that's the exact same recommendation I got to help reintegrate my and my girlfriend's cats.
Okay.
What?
Did they reintegrate, or did you have to put them down?
Well, we broke up. Not for that.
Oh, so they're her problem now, right?
Well, no. Charles right here. Hey, buddy.
There we go.
Oh, the cat heard you talking about him.
No, I have headphones and it's okay.
Yeah, you want to watch out, man. You piss those cats off, they'll shit in your shoes. No joke. They're fucking vindictive little bastards.
Oh, dude. Oh.
My cat knows if she does some shit like that, I'll beat the shit out of her.
Yeah, you're so. I've seen you get threatening that cat. And I've seen the cat just look at you like, and
yeah. I don't think PETA needs to rush.
Well, it sounds like your cat established the hierarchy.
Yep, a long time ago.
Has the cat scratched you?
No. In fact, all I have to do is walk in her direction, and she runs. She knows not. She knows. She knows not to interact with me unless I'm sitting in my computer chair, and then she may sit in my lap every once in a while, and that is it.
That sounds
Other
fair.
than that,
and we've all seen how well that works because
seriously, 40. Whenever you make it up here, you're gonna have to show me some lessons on how to train those cats because my wife's cats are driving me insane.
Dude, no, I swear to God, you have to establish. You have to establish fear into your animals. This is the only way they will obey you. Like the fucking dogs. Like, whenever they bark in the background, all I have to do is open the bedroom door, and they shut the fuck up immediately.
and then he throws in the cat.
Oh, no, dude. Like,
Release the cat.
I have the dogs trained, right? So where if I point in a specific direction, they will go in that direction because they fear me. It's so satisfying.
Dominance in dogs is well known. Cats can be. Some cats will respond positively to that kind of stuff, and other cats will respond quite negatively, no matter how harsh you get.
No, I do have this one cat that her name is Jinx, so that like whenever I say hello to her, I say hi Jinx, which is fucking funny to me. But she refuses to obey me sometimes, so I was just like, all right, she's gonna be a fucking outside cat.
So basically, you have punished the cat because you've banished it from your realm.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah, you're in exile, you little cunt. We rename you Napoleon and send you to a fucking island.
Off to Elba you go.
Yeah.
But the cat came back the very next day.
Yeah, for food, and then I ejected her immediately from the house. That's pretty much the story of that.
But the cat came back the very next day.
Oh, okay. So, if we're done with the knife conversation, go ahead and get into that last story, MC, and then I want to talk a little bit about Tommy Robinson again before we close down the show.
I was about to say, I totally forgot what we were talking about.
I'm going to put this in the chat so you guys can see it too. So give me a second here. Paste. Enter. All right. This story by the Daily Mail comes to us. Oh, this isn't the story I wanted. I'm sorry. Got the wrong one. Hold on a second.
I was going to say, we're going back to Roseanne. We could.
No. I hit the wrong thing. Hold on. I copied the wrong link. My mistake. We're not going to go back to Roseanne. Well, I mean, unless you really want to. I think we pretty much killed that already, though.
Yeah, we covered it. I'm kind of hopeful that another network may pick up the show, but I doubt it. The Expanse got picked up by Amazon, but Theos isn't going to fucking throw Roseanne any help. So there's no way that's going to happen.
Oh, see, I was memeing Elon Musk earlier.
Fuck, dude. Wow.
This is from The Guardian, all right? Brazil faces calls for the return to military dictatorship amid trucker strike.
Well, it did really suck.
Days into shutdown that began over fuel prices, some protesters call for military intervention to put the house in order. Okay?
Oh, God.
Hundreds of truckers, and I believe you had Lovely Kitten on here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she's from Brazil, and she was talking about this. Well, this is what it's coming down to now. Hundreds of truckers and their supporters had gathered at gas stations on the highway near Sao Paulo for a rally in support of a nationwide protest that has brought South America's biggest economy to its knees. But among the slogans and Brazilian flags were signs not usually seen at strike demonstrations. Slung from a nearby overpass were banners calling for military intervention, a sign that this shutdown has taken on a political dimension of its own. As the nationwide truck strike reaches its 10th day, gas stations have finally begun to receive fuel deliveries, and truckers have started drifting back to work, some unwillingly. But hundreds of demonstrations have continued along the highways across Brazil, and many of those are still protesting, are calling for the return of the right-wing dictatorship that ran Brazil for nearly 2 somber decades until 1985. We need help from the military to resolve our problems in Brasilia, to remove the bandits from there, and to put the house in order, said one driver, Gabriel Bretoff. I don't know how to pronounce that, so I apologize. 44. What began as a nationwide truck strike over rising fuel prices has spiraled into a broader protest over a range of issues, including Brazil's healthcare, education, roads, increasing violence, and political corruption. All right, now the story goes on. If you care to read it, it's from the Guardian. All right, and the title is "Brazil Faces Calls for Return to Military Dictatorship Amid Trucker Strike." This indicates that the populace at this point just wants an end to the corruption, and they're asking the military to go in there and clean house.
Well, they only lose estimated $41 billion a year to corruption.
Well, and Kitty, when she was on the show, she brought that up. She said there is a lot of people, that was right when this first happened, that were already calling for the military to intervene. Is a coup a good idea? And the military, are they still more right-wing, or are they as leftist as the current government? Because the government there is socialist. So
any military, regardless of every military in the world, that's truly a military, it's truly a true military organization, is always going to be more tradition-bound, all right, and more conservative than the general populace. It has to be in order to serve that populace.
But still, no, folks.
Okay, it's just the nature of military, how militaries have to function. You need a very strict hierarchy. You need very strict rules within those hierarchies. All right, individualism is not necessarily at a premium, to put it mildly.
Well,
Okay.
see, the thing is, though, MC, the thing is, though, if you look at Turkey, the military was the one thing keeping Turkey from leaving its secular nature. And after the last coup failed, they are now going off the rails. They're threatening Israel. We might as well kick them out of NATO. Now, jump back over to Brazil. What if the military fails? What if they fail like the Turkish military did? What happens then?
Well,
Oh,
then
I
you're
don't-
going to see mass purges. That's what, just exactly like what happened in Turkey.
Yeah, you'll see the mass purging, but the military itself will still remain very, very traditional in and of itself. Erdogan, the thing that people forget about with Erdogan was doing a harken back to the old days kind of spiel, right? The reason the coup failed is because a lot of the military supported his reforms, which put the military, helped the military out quite a bit,
Mhm.
right? So that's not the only reason it failed, but that's a major portion why the military as a whole didn't get involved in it, all right? Involved in the coup. There's also the aspect that the military, being conservative, right, tends not to want to change things dramatically. That's why the militaries tend to avoid things. Now, once they become in charge, then it's just okay. Time after time after time, it becomes internal fights within the military. That's where you see coup after coup after coup in a lot of these Latin American dictatorships that were run by the military. But it's really not the populace doing the coups. It's just another sect within the military, another part of the military fighting against itself, kind of like internal conflict.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I think me and Cabbage were talking about this, it was me, Cabbage, and Kitten, and we were talking about this about a week or so ago. And we were trying to think of military coups that have gone down a proper route and upheld some kind of constitution or traditionalism, like you were saying, MC. But I mean, typically, one thing that is worrying to an extent is that this is essentially going to establish someone who's far right, someone who you could consider borderline fascist. And that's my concern here, is that you're going to get someone who's far right. Yes, they're traditionalists, they're religious, they're in favor of military spending, and so of course the military is going to support them. It means a bump to extra paychecks or better equipment, whatever it might be. But I am very concerned that this is actually going to go the wrong way. And the last thing I would want to see is a fascist installed in Brazil. Because that is not going to if a fascist hypothetically gets installed in Brazil, or someone who's far right, for a fact that there's going to be conflict with Venezuela, whether it's militarily or there's going to be intervention to some degree, just because historically there has been that animosity between people on the right and communists, and rightfully so, I think. Hashtag helicopter rides. But that is something that does worry me a little bit. I really don't want the rights of the Brazilian people to be overtaken by some religious dictator or some fascist or something like that. And it's, I don't know, it's not my country, and whatever happens, the people's choice and whatnot. But, at the same time, if people's rights are being compromised, I also don't want that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't, but the thing is, though, the military dictatorship gave it up before. Could that happen again? Or is that a one-off, instance? Can you trust their military to hand power back? And if the answer is yes, then maybe they need the intervention.
Egypt did it.
Well, there are a few instances. Look at like Turkey's first initial. This is what I thought of. Cabbage was looking for examples in which a military coup didn't result in like a bad situation, and I had brought up Turkey initially because there was a military uprising to some extent. They established a constitution. They are technically the upholders of the constitution in Turkey. It's the military's duty to perform a coup if things are getting too dictatorial and preserve the rights of the people. But historically, I don't know. Historically, if you had to say, all right, do you want a fascist or a communist? I would have to side with the fascist. I know that's fucked up to say, but historically, fascists are actually willing, you know, at least when they die, they hand power back to the people. I mean, at least look at like Pinochet and Franco. There's not a terrible amount of fascists, but at least at some point, the power does get handed back to the military or the people.
Well, I mean, I know our friend Coach Red Pill. I mean, he had some nice things to say about Mr. Pinochet. And you know what? I do remember Donald Trump when he started his campaign. He was giving helicopter rides to kids.
Oh my God, was he really?
Yeah, no, he like announced his campaign. I remember on one of the things on the news, he's like, he had showed up on like Trump Force One, and he's just like, all right, hey, these kids want to go for a ride, and he's giving kids helicopter rides.
Dude, fucking yes. Hopefully there were some Californian kids, you know, maybe you give him a little push over the edge. I don't know.
Maybe East Coast. I don't know where he was. Maybe Heartland.
Take out some future commies. I don't know.
Wait, what?
The helicopter rides that 40 is looking for and the ones that Trump were giving were a little different.
Wait, what?
I don't know.
Isn't that a meme?
I had a friend named Pinochet. He gave pretty good helicopter rides, I heard.
Pinochet
Did you really do that?
Was known for helicopter rides for communists, yes.
Now, were these folks that were sentenced to execution in said state? Because I know there was some like guerrilla war.
Well, these are people that they captured in the rural areas, and on their way back, some of them didn't get off the helicopter with everybody else. They got off early.
Oh yes.
Well, you know, maybe their stop was a little bit before everybody else's.
Oh, their stop happened when they hit the ground.
God damn it!
So they didn't have seatbelts.
No.
Yeah, they're. Let's just say they took a sharp turn to the right, and some people fell out. Oh.
Well, I mean, some folks care about it, some folks don't. I mean, our friend or foe, Bane, did not care because nobody cared till he put on the mask.
The ones that got off weren't necessarily in bitter shape. Okay, they didn't necessarily have a better time of it.
No, I mean, I suppose it gives them a trial.
Well, yeah, they went to trial after what you would call interrogation.
So what you're saying is they already had their trial by combat.
Well, no, they would have a trial after the interrogation proceedings.
Nah, it was an interrogation. They just needed a little convincing to testify. That's all.
Yeah, was this enhanced interrogation?
No, this was hot pokers up the ass.
Oh, so enhanced interrogation.
It was.
There's
John
a difference
McCain,
between
probably.
interrogation and someone taking a red hot poker and shoving it up your ass.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Mad Dog. Someone loses their fingertips. I mean, I don't know. It's neither here nor there.
Well, your fingertips, that fucking sucks. But a hot poker up their ass, you ain't gonna be able to shit, and it's gonna tear your sphincter out if they fucking rip it out.
Oh shit, that is actually true. Yeah.
It's gonna cauterize fucking everything. If you know from doing any type of blacksmithing, man, that shit will fall onto you instantly.
Yeah, that will literally liquefy your skin. That's not fun.
They would do things like wire up your genitals and dial 911.
Oh yes.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, so dictatorships and military coups. Yeah.
Okay, but okay. You could look at it saying that the military gave up, allowed civilians to take control. All right, they gave up power from that perspective. They gave up executive power. All right, which is fine. All right, and this is a good thing. You can say this is a good thing. Okay, the problem that you're seeing in Brazil was a problem in all of Latin America, and it's also a problem that's becoming a problem in the United States, where people are becoming too accepting of corruption. They see corruption going on around them, and they just kind of turn a blind eye to it. They see corruption in political officials, just a little bit of bribe here. Well, that's just a way of doing business here and there. That's how you do business. Well, if that becomes your attitude, and that becomes your predominant attitude of everybody else, well, then what you're looking at is massive corruption on a scale, and the population tolerating it. and thinking,
yeah, you're
the way
looking
of
at Tammany Hall. You're looking at Tammany Hall, right?
right. You're
I
looking at
mean,
Tammany Hall. You're looking at a number of different aspects that have happened within the United States. That's true. But when you tolerate corruption, when you don't try to root it out, when you just ignore it and think that somehow it's going to go away, it's not going to go away. It's just going to spread and it's going to get worse. And this is, one of the reasons why we're having issues right now in D.C. When people are talking about draining the swamp, they're talking about getting rid of the corrupt officials. And some of them are elected officials and some of them are part of the bureaucracy, right? That's how entrenched a lot of this becomes.
absolutely. But wouldn't that be a reason for the military to take action, especially since they have handed power over before?
As long as they have the attitude that corruption is bad, you could look at it from that standpoint. But if your military is running as with the same attitude as the general populace, that corruption is excuse me, just a way of life, what difference is it going to make?
That's a very good point. And if they installed someone to the far right, I don't know if necessarily a conflict with Venezuela would really last long. I mean, Venezuela can't even feed its people. How could it field an army at this point? But yeah, expanded conflict in South America, that is within our sphere of influence as the United States, hence the Monroe Doctrine. So we might get pushed into that type of fray. And I really don't want to be involved in any more conflicts anywhere in the fucking world.
The Monroe Doctrine was very specific about it wasn't to worry about conflicts between Latin American countries. It was to prevent foreign, specifically European powers from playing inside of Latin America. In this case, you could expand it to Asian powers such as Japan and China if you wanted to, right? If you saw them having a significant play or a significant factor, then yes, the United States would get involved. As far as another Latin American country having a beef with another Latin American country, most of Americans won't care in the generic sense. It's only when American interests are directly affected that you'll see the U.S. military go into an area. Right. For example, Panama. If something threatened the Panama Canal, yes, you would see the United States military act. Right. If there are significant U.S. citizens in the area, like what happened in Grenada, yes, you will see the United States act. All right. But if it's like, for example, just pulling things out, let's say that Mexico decides to go to war with, one of the Latin American countries or one of the South American countries, you would not see the United States get involved. Most likely, you would see the United States just sit back and see how it goes. It will try to mediate it, but as far as any kind of military assets, I don't think unless there's some reason why U.S. citizens are threatened, you would not see the United States involved.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a good idea for the military to intervene, but if the people are calling for it, who are we to say it's a bad idea? They're the ones living in the situation, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an untenable situation. They're going to have to fix a lot of corruption. There's a lot at stake, and no matter which side you're on, one side's going to win, one side's going to lose. And that means under the current regime, there are people that are benefiting from the current regime. And if you end up with a military coup, there are plenty of people who would no longer benefit from it. So that would be definitely against, going down that road. So, I mean, how many people would it affect? Don't know. Could it be something that's good? Anything could be good. The problem is that with any kind of leader, especially a military leader, if they've gotten there with the attitude of I'm God or look at what this is all mine, all right, in that kind of a mode, they're not going to relinquish power. And it can't just be him. It's got to be him or her. It's got to be the people below them as well. Got to have the same philosophy, because if they don't, what'll just happen is once that person seizes power, they'll just, get the bullet in the back of the head from somebody else underneath them, right? Who will then take charge. They'll pull a Saddam Hussein.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I tend to actually agree with you. And it is an unattainable situation. And either way it goes, I hope our friend Kitty at least is okay. She's the only one I know from Brazil, but she's right there in the crossfire. But I want to move on to the last subject. Yeah, I want to move on to the last subject for tonight. They lifted the gag order on the UK media over the Tommy Robinson situation. Yet the UK media has still been silent for the most part. What the heck? What is it going to take for the media in the UK to actually acknowledge the fact that a man was taken to prison for 13 months without a trial or anything? Because looking into it more, I saw an interview from Lauren Southern with a member of Tommy Robinson's team. This was before the gag order was lifted, so he couldn't say that much. What he did say is Tommy Robinson only had 3 months left or 2 months left on his suspended sentence. That's it. What they should have did was put him in jail for the 2 or 3 months that were left and then release him. Mm-hmm. What they decided to do was nail him with 10 more months for good measure, without a trial, without anything.
No, I thought he violated parole. Like he was on probation or something. It was some weird, basically, to us, but based on legal. I'm not saying that he wasn't getting fucked, because it really sounds like he was pissing a number of people off. And like, hey, I get that, but it's if he violated parole, they have him. But my big thing is, if they do have on video him asking, like when he gets there, is it all right if I film here? And if that is what he did, at that point, he had consent from the local authorities to do something. And then whether if it was the exact folks there that said he could or other folks that showed up, then arresting him for a violation of parole or whatever it is. Basically, if he had consent, and they probably knew who he was, because many folks there know who he is, it's like to be said you can do something and say, well, we're arresting you for doing what we said you could do. Like, that doesn't seem right at all.
Yeah, that seems as if you might be able to appeal that.
Well, yeah, and I would like to.
You've got justice and freedom of speech.
Well, that's true as well. But I would like to add what the team members said as well, and then go ahead, 40. He had also said, so they took Tommy and they told them that he was going to one police station. He wasn't there. They then had to run to another police station. He wasn't there either. They got a tweet from somebody who was, thank God, looking at the court records, of what cases were being seen that day. And then all of a sudden, Tommy Robinson's name was added to the court list in 10 minutes. Nobody notified his wife. Nobody notified his team. Nobody notified his solicitor or lawyer, whatever they call it there. Nobody did any of that. They rushed him in. They put him in front of a judge, and nobody would have known if one person did not tweet at them because they saw the fucking court cases for the day, and they saw that he was added to it. This all seems entirely shifty and weird. Add another thing to that. His charge when he was arrested was breaching the peace. His charge when he went to court and they sent him with the suspended sentence violation was contempt of court. They didn't even stick the charge that they arrested him for onto him. They literally just arrested him, and then because he got arrested...
Well, the contempt of court is basically the equivalent of a parole violation, as far as I understand.
Same.
Well, wouldn't they have to add the other charge? It's like, the same thing baffles me when you get arrested...
The argument would be, how was he violating his charge if he was?
Well, yeah. How did you get contempt of court?
I'm still not saying it's right. I'm just saying, like, that's how they're playing.
That's like when they arrest somebody for the only thing that they arrest them for is resisting arrest. No other charges. What? You have to have an initial charge to arrest somebody. So how were they resisting an arrest you weren't legally obligated to do? It baffles my mind, this kind of fucking logic.
Well, that's very, now, this isn't to say that I actually agree with the courts in the UK, okay? Because I don't. I think it's a ridiculous law. I think that this was an unjust arrest. However, there's something to be said about Tommy Robinson here that I think not a lot of people are saying. And that is, listen, if before in the past... if you got busted and the reason for your original arrest was that you were literally outside of a courtroom trying to interview people who were not allowed to be interviewed, and you were trying to report on matters that had this delisting or denotice or, big black D, whatever the fuck it's called, and you got in trouble for doing so, then logic should tell you that maybe you shouldn't do it a second time, and yet he fucking persists and does it a second time. Instead of fighting it in like a court or something like that, and saying this is unjust because of reasons X, Y, and Z, he just keeps on doing the same thing. And at one point, I had to sit down and wonder, is Tommy Robinson purposefully becoming a martyr, or is he fucking retarded?
Well, he's
is that different
the
than
one thing,
chaining yourself to a tree?
Just one thing. I want to correct you a little bit.
How many times did Martin Luther... Hold on a second. How many times did Martin Luther King get arrested?
I think like 3 or 4 times.
Okay, that's the kind of situation that you're dealing with. He's protesting an unjust form of government, an unjust laws. All right, just like Martin Luther King did. So yeah, it's not that he's stupid. This is what he is, an activist. He is a social activist.
Well, and I would like to point out, I believe the original charge, now I'm not 100%, but I'm about 85. I believe he was filming inside the courtroom when he originally got arrested.
Oh, when he originally got arrested?
Yes, I believe he was inside the courtroom, which is even illegal in the United States. You can't fucking do it. Yeah. So there is a difference between being inside and being outside.
Yeah, and I believe he was actually across the street at one point. So I don't even think like he was on the steps of the courtroom. So I was saying, I think it was they're being very strenuous with the laws here. I don't even think that he was even on the steps of the courthouse. He's literally like on the sidewalk or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that he's not kind of dumb for putting himself out there repeatedly, but MC has a point. Luther King did the same thing, and that's the only way change came about. So sometimes you have to put your fucking dick in the wind, so to say, and take the hazard to get something to happen.
It's taking one for the team.
Well, and he's running the same risk that Martin Luther King is going to end up being with the same result, which is dead.
Yeah, that's very true. But I mean, here's the thing. It wasn't, granted, his activism may have spurred on the laws to actually change the kind of socio-political atmosphere into what it is today. But Martin Luther King was literally doing what you would consider civil disobedience. Black people sitting at the counter in the diner or something, and a few white people beside him, and everyone's shunning the Negro or what have you. But I mean, the thing is that if he really wants to make change, you have to appeal directly to the government. Because yes, government is downstream from culture, but how long does that take? How many more, how many, is it going to be 10 or 15 or 20 years?
You have to appeal to the power of the government, and the power of the government in democracies is the people.
Yeah.
So that's what he's going to have to, eventually that's what he's going to have to appeal to.
Yeah. So in my mind, why waste the time turning yourself into a martyr and getting arrested for what is essentially no reason? Because these laws aren't going to change tomorrow. You're going to have to appeal to the power structure. You're going to have to seize the power structure in your own hands. And the only way to do that is to elect people who favor you.
But the only way, but you got to remember, the problem that he's got is the press blackouts. The problem they have in Great Britain is the press is not, it's not just that the press doesn't want to cover him. It's that the government is working with the press to prevent that knowledge from reaching the people as to that this man is an activist, that this man is protesting, that this man is having this kind of effect. It was a little bit different, in that regard than what you're dealing with Martin Luther King, because Martin Luther King, of course, was played up by the press. All right, these things, we had an open press, we had a free press. All right, whether the government wanted him there or not, okay, the reporters were there reporting on it. He has to break through that. All right, so, and he's doing it. The manner he's choosing to do it is the manner which has the most direct threat to the press, so the press understands this. So other people who are reporters understand that they're under threat too. They're the constituency he needs to break first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. If he's going to make any change at all, he has to appeal to a wider audience, like you said, being that of the press. The problem is that they have an entirely different conception of what the general political consensus is. Because I mean, the reality of the matter is that the people of the UK are leaning further and further right due to the oppressive nature of the left inherent in the UK government, and the press is not picking up at that. They're not picking that up at the moment. They're enveloped in this weird far left narrative where everyone is fucking shit eating phone. They're enveloped in this weird far left narrative where everyone's the same and the migrants can do no wrong and yada yada yada. And so he's going to have to appeal to their inherent need for freedom if he's going to make any difference. But I mean, at the same time, the press shares an agenda with the very government that's actually in control. I mean, it was fuck, what was that bitch's name? The prime minister at the moment, Theresa May. Yeah, Theresa May is a Ramoner. You know, she's a conservative, quote unquote. Put massive air quotes around the name conservative, but even though she's a conservative, she's still a Ramoner. She's still on board with the stupid progressive bullshittery.
Well, she helped bring back fox hunting.
Well, that doesn't. Well, I mean, from what I've heard, actually, foxes are actually a pest to farmers.
I have heard that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I can understand that to some degree. You know, just a tiny amount.
But isn't there a more humane way to control the population rather than just have dogs viciously tear them apart?
Yeah, you could literally just release them in different environments.
Like release the hounds.
Well, no, I mean, all you have to do is capture them and just release them in a different fucking environment. It's really not that hard.
Doesn't work. That doesn't work. They tried that with the wolves. They started capturing wolves from Idaho and moving them to Eastern Oregon. That's what happened in Eastern Oregon. The wolves are attacking the fucking cattle and killing them. That doesn't work. You can't just relocate it and put the problem on somebody else.
Well, here's the problem, though. Does the birth rate exceed the rate at which they are capturing and relocating?
I'm not sure. I just know in Eastern Oregon, that's a big deal right now. The ranchers are pissed and they're shooting the wolves. They're killing them fucking dead. And then they're burying them in the back of the ranch so nobody finds out.
Yeah. Well, that's not to say that I don't believe you. I'm just... I don't know. I'm just... I don't know fucking anything about wolves. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just trying to factor in all different kinds of shit. Yeah, they're mean, and I would like to make one into a blanket if given the opportunity. That's pretty much it.
Or you could find a dire wolf and ride it into battle.
I would also not mind that.
Jon Snow, fucking for the win. Good job, memes.
Yes, to ride my dire wolf into combat against the damned commies. That's fine.
You already got the helmet and the celebration cigar. You're good to go.
Dude, I do. I'm so fucking... I love that helmet so much. I love it so much. Goddamn.
Always need head protection.
Well, I mean, it doesn't help, but I mean, you know, it makes you look pretty damn snazzy.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you're Patton.
Yeah, exactly. I want to get on top of a... Oh, Jesus.
You know what's on your Christmas list.
Yeah, at Abrams. No.
Exactly.
So the Sherman.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a... Yeah, Sherman.
Fuck Sherman. Fuck Sherman.
Oh, anyway. I'm getting salty now. All right.
You getting butthurt because of the Civil War again? Let's move on quick before someone brings
quickly.
Up the war.
No, but the Tommy Robinson
take
thing.
a note.
I have noticed that they are talking about an appeal when it comes to the Tommy Robinson case. Do you think that'll go through, or will they just push that out? You know, they can just push that appeal to 2 years, and then he'll be released anyway, right? Look at Dankula. They don't have to fucking see him in court.
So there's an appeal going on. Is it from Tommy Robinson?
No, I heard.
Is it from
I've heard rumors. I've heard mumblings on Twitter and in some of the other YouTube channels about maybe
how long
there might be
climbing Downing Street.
No, I agree. Yeah, it depends on whether or not people keep up their activism, whether or not the the unrest seems to be continuing, where the grumbling, where people are climbing the gates and the lampposts continues. Right? We don't
Yeah,
know
when your
how
own
long
folks are
that.
storming the gates, it's you might question some things.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly. They may say, okay, well, maybe we got to rethink how we're gonna how to go about this, or what's the best process to go about this. Are we there yet? Are we? I don't know. It seems to me as if we got it's a good ways to go yet, but that's just my impression.
Yeah.
The United States. If I was commenting on the United States and what's going on in the United States, that's one thing. But when we start talking about what goes on in Great Britain and how they view things, they're not Americans. They have their own way of the British populace has its own way of viewing things. There's a lot of things we have in common, but there's a lot socially that we don't. And so I kind of get a little bit leery about trying to describe, okay, this, I mean, obviously a guy getting arrested for speaking his mind, for a guy getting arrested because he wants to publicize the fact that you've got rape gangs going on in his country. You, I, and everybody will agree that there's nothing wrong with that. And there's an absolute miscarriage of justice that he would get arrested doing that for that very act. That's beyond the pale. But let's be honest, the D-Notice shit has been going on inside of Great Britain for decades, and the British people they haven't been rioting about it. They haven't been complaining about it.
Yeah. Well, sorry, go on, Mad Dodge.
Oh no, go ahead real quick because I'm gonna switch it up. I have a question here in a second, so go ahead.
Well, one thing I was going to bring up is that, largely my conception of the UK and how the populace kind of augments themselves to political beliefs and all that stuff. My conception of the UK is that, admittedly, it largely comes from third-party sources like Cabbage and Voice and people like Sargon and everything, but I think that one thing that's rather interesting is that you do have these mass protests. I mean, even 24 hours after the fact that Tommy Robinson was actually arrested, and the Sargon has walked around with Robinson before, and he said, "Oh yeah, there are people that come up to Robinson, and they shake his hand really quick, and then but they walk off super quick. They don't necessarily want to be affiliated with a figure that's really so toxic to the mainstream media, at least. But the fact that you have these uprisings and the fact that you do have these common folk, these literally working class people that are coming up, and they are thankful for the work that he's doing, because these are the people that are affected by the policies of the UK government. It's not necessarily the politicians themselves that are housing these migrants. They're shoving them into these shitty neighborhoods where all the chavs used to live. But the chavs had to move out, right? The gopniks or the hoodlums, whatever you want to call them, they had to actually move out of these neighborhoods due to the fact that they're being extremely misplaced. And the fact that you see the populace, there is a kind of popular uprising, that will lend credibility to the fact that, much like in America, there is this silent majority that Trump speaks of. There is that effect taking place in the UK to some degree. And at this point, it's a matter of who the people are willing to elect come the next snap election, if Theresa May is indeed that fucking retarded, or the next election in general for the next prime minister, the next PM. So it's a matter of elections at this point. It's a matter of who do the people want to represent them, I should say. And I don't know. It's hard in this case not to take into account the silent majority. That it seems to be the year of the silent majority or something like that. I don't fucking know.
But in order for the silent majority to actually get involved, they have to be informed. And it looks to me as if the vast majority of the British population are uninformed.
funny enough, I would say otherwise. I mean, a majority of people, there were polls done in the UK, and if you didn't know any better, then it would seem as though the Ramoners, the people who wanted to remain in the EU, it seemed as though they were going to win. But lo and behold, we have a Brexit. You know, lo and behold, we have a
that's
Trump.
polling ahead of time, but when you're starting to talk about a defense or coming back to as a reaction against totalitarianism, all right, they have to know that you're in a. If you don't know you're in a totalitarian state, you don't know you're in a totalitarian state.
That's very true. But if you do know you're in a totalitarian state, are you going to speak up when the press tends to have a nasty habit of shunning people?
Well, if you ever want to, if you're looking for change, that you're going to have to. You're not going to have a choice.
I think it ends up being a function of the perceived likelihood of success versus the perceived likelihood of how bad shit is going to happen to me and how quickly, especially if things don't succeed.
That's true.
Yeah, and one last thing I want to discuss here before we end the show. Donald Trump Jr. came out in support of Tommy Robinson. Now, is there any way the president could intervene, and is it even his place to do so? I would be really offended if Theresa May tried to interfere in a court case within the United States. Shouldn't they be offended if Trump does that to them?
Well, funny, I was actually thinking about this morning, and it seems as though, and this just occurred to me recently, so I don't know how valid this is, but it seems as though Donald Trump Jr. will tweet about all the spicy things that Trump himself necessarily can't tweet about. You know, if you ever see like a super spicy tweet that's, you know, is being criticized or something, it's typically from someone like Donald Trump Jr. You know, Trump will say the generic, we need to build the wall, we need to do things my way, or whatever it might be. But when it comes to socio-political commentary, it seems as though Donald Trump Jr. is the one tweeting these things. And so something leads me to believe that, you know, I'm not saying Trump is telling Donald Trump Jr. to tweet certain things, but it seems as though he is kind of the right-hand man. And I'm actually really glad that he touched on this, because he's not necessarily the man in charge. He's not necessarily the politician. So he is kind of he's absorbing this information from third parties and everything. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me agreeing with Donald Trump Jr. due to the fact that he represents my political views. But I can't lie. I'm very pleased that he actually touched on this.
So 40, what you're saying is Donald Trump Jr. is Beavis and Butthead, and Donald Trump is Dilbert.
Yes.
Well, MC, what do you think? Is it the president of the United States' place to interfere in another country's domestic criminal cases? You know what I mean?
We do it all the time.
Like,
what difference does it make? We do it in
is
China.
that really?
In China, we sit up there and constantly talk about you can't just arrest people for their religious beliefs. You need to release the Falun Gong. We do that all the time. We just did it in North Korea, saying give us back our frickin' our people that broke your laws.
But that's fair enough. But that's talking about United States citizens. We're talking about Tommy Robinson, a British citizen. He has nothing to do with the United States.
That's true, but for us to say something would not be out of the norm.
Yeah,
we do that all the time.
Obama constantly commented on other people's policies. I mean, that's not something that we haven't been known for in the past.
That's a fair assessment. I wouldn't necessarily think it's correct, because I would be offended if Theresa May was trying to interfere in a court case in the United States.
You have to do it correctly, obviously. Right? Yeah. But they do it. You have seen the British make snide comments about our judicial system several different times throughout the decades, and you've seen us make comments about, for example, the what's going on in Germany in the migrant situation and how they're handling things and so forth. So these things do take place. Now, granted, you got to do a softer touch than what Trump is used to doing, but
Wait
yeah.
a second. You're saying we should use more clever mean words than more brazen mean words?
I think it's sending a tweet saying the British system sucks is probably not the best way to handle the situation.
Well, he didn't say that, did he?
Well,
No,
I mean,
he has not.
it's a matter of
usual
decorum.
way.
Oh,
It's a matter of decorum, but I mean, Trump doesn't have that all the time.
Trump did tweet the issue with the which they took quite offense to when he tweeted the videos of gays being thrown off of buildings and shit from the right.
Well, some of those videos weren't even accurate, I thought.
Yeah.
No, they were accurate.
And shit from the internet. Well, they were true, but I think some of the context was malaligned.
The only one that was slightly out of context was the kid who was getting roughed up. But the guys getting thrown off the buildings. No, they were getting thrown off the buildings because they were gay. That one of the context
that's
is
not good.
Okay.
No, no, it's not.
That ain't cool at all.
Okay. Now they weren't happening in Britain, and it was a British group that was doing it, and it did cause a diplomatic row with Theresa May and her group. Okay, so it's got to be.
Well, President Trump was insinuating very. I mean, you could say.
He was essentially saying, "Don't be like Britain." That's what he was doing.
Didn't Theresa May say something first?
No, he was just saying, "Don't be like Britain."
Oh,
I mean that is effectively the cultural that they're importing. So I mean, is it too much of a stretch to say that they're going to be exactly like that in about 20, 30 years time? I don't know.
You're making a very overgeneralization.
No, I don't think I am. What am I making a generalization?
There are not good things happening in many areas. No, absolutely. But
yeah, so imagine.
I think MCA was bringing up, is that necessarily something you would want as a standard decorum for the president of the United States?
Correct. That wasn't the best way to have approached that from that standpoint. It did ruffle feathers in Great Britain. Now, to be honest, many of the feathers it ruffled were in London stand, so nobody really cares.
What if the president of the United States just did this? Hashtag free Tommy, and that's it. Without comment, without anything. But he throws his support behind freeing this man from an unjust persecution.
That would be hashtag dragon energy levels.
Yeah, let me tell you right now, if you're dealing with the British people, you got to understand how the British people handle these things. It would behoove him if he was serious about doing this to not say anything publicly, to just talk to Theresa May over the phone in private. It would be much more appreciated by the British people, by the British on how they approach things. You got to remember, they're British. They have a different outlook. They look at Americans in an entirely different manner than we look at they look at the world in an entirely different manner than we do.
Yeah, absolutely, and that would be more fitting the office of the presidency than tweet out something random. But we are talking about the current president of the United States who loves his Twitter account.
Yes, he does.
he has been consistent.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
Wrong, I'm going to be willing to call him out for doing things wrong.
I'm just saying, it's like Donald Trump has consistently been Donald Trump.
Yes. There are several things that he's done that I think are a little bit over the top, and I've mentioned those when it's happened.
Oh, absolutely. So before we wrap it up, I just want to tell everybody who is still watching and might watch later, I opened up a BitChute account. The link is in the description. Please come and subscribe over there. I'm going to start mirroring the Redeye to that channel also, and I'm going to put out some BitChute only videos. So I'll have some special releases.
Does BitChute allow live streaming?
Not yet, which is why I'm going to mirror stuff over. But they just added some new features to the system, and here soon, hopefully, they'll have a app for the cell phone. So they're trying to compete with YouTube. They're giving it their damnedest. Unlike a certain company called VidMe, who folded up. But that being said, also the Looney Bin will be here on my channel this Friday. We'll be back over to Bollocks' channel next week. I hope to see you guys there. Any last thoughts, you guys? Take that as a no.
The only last thought I have is that I've been following at the Anti-Trekker. I don't know if anybody else follows the Anti-Trekker. He does a lot of live streams, and he also does some interesting content. So
I like his Borg series.
Discussing sci-fi or something like that. Please check out the Anti-Trekker. That's all I've got to say.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to throw in with the Anti-Trekker, I really like his Borg series. He's on episode 10, I think. I haven't watched the 10th episode yet, but I've watched all the rest. Yeah. And they're really pretty good.
Descent is what he's dealing with now. Want them.
But no, and also remind everybody, go subscribe to 40 Ounce if you haven't already. MC, he is actively using his channel finally, and he's doing some good political commentary over there by himself most of the time. Go check him out as well. Memes, I don't think you're really doing much on your channel yet, right?
I had the Tommy video the other day.
Oh, well, yeah, that's right. So yeah, check Memes out as well. Thank you. Good night. And good luck. Free Tommy Robinson.